The following program is made possible by supporters and friends of Biblical Foundations Academy International.
In every place I cause my name to be mentioned, I will come to you and bless you. In this house and in Jerusalem, I will place my name forever. Therefore, my people shall know my name. Here I am.
You know, I think it's only fair that I back up just a little bit, just to make sure you understand the significance of what we've been talking about regarding his name. As I mentioned in the program just before this, that I had been literally invited to the city of Jerusalem at the time of Shavuot. And as a result of that, I also had a passion to own my own Torah scroll. And after all sorts of circumstances, I end up meeting an Arab man who takes me as a Methodist to a Jewish man's house where a South African man hosts us, brings us into the apartment, and there are the three scrolls. I picked the one that I thought would believe, that literally would fit into my, what I called my Ark of the Covenant, my empty suitcase. And again, what was so amazing to me is that after I get this Torah scroll and I bring it to the apartment, I meet Nehemiah Gordon, the Hebrew scholar from Hebrew University, and I ask him to read the Torah scroll. And again, now remember, there are no chapters, there are no verses. Literally, if a scroll opens up, that is where you read. The scroll that I selected happened to open up to Leviticus chapter 23 regarding the holiday of Shavuot. And as I mentioned, I literally wanted to jump, and I did. And I shouted, and I was excited. And my friend Nehemiah looked at me a little strange. And we went back and forth, and I said I needed him to become my friend, the one that would help me learn how to read my Torah scroll. Well, the next day, we had, and literally, the real reason that I met Nehemiah was to be taken into Jerusalem for a tour of the old city. I'd like to show you a picture of just where I was, and this is actually a picture of the old city of Jerusalem, where Nehemiah and I were. Now, if you look just to the right of that picture, there were some benches right across from what's called the Western Wall where we were sitting. And as we were sitting there, something came upon me to ask Nehemiah a question that I had asked many Jewish people before him. I simply asked him this: do you know the name of God? And he came back to me and said, do you have a piece of paper and pencil? We wrote down the four letters that you've already learned in the series: Yud, He, Vav, He. He then began to explain to me about the vowel system in the Hebrew Bible. After a short refresher course from my time in seminary, I remembered everything. And the last year, as I mentioned, I had been reacquainted with the Hebrew Bible, so I could say to him, yes, I know something about the vowels. He then writes out a series of vowels and explanations and gives me all sorts of issues surrounding that. After we're talking, and I say to him, now, Nehemiah, what about this? Can you actually speak the name? Well, before that, he says to me, Keith, actually, the name is actually written in some actual Hebrew manuscripts. I said, really? He said, yeah. He went to tell me that there were actually places in the oldest, most complete vocalized Hebrew manuscript, which means the manuscript where there are vowels and consonants. He tells me that there are places in that manuscript where the scribe writes the consonants Yud, He, Vav, He, and puts in vowels so that the name can be spoken. You see, I had heard that his name was too holy to pronounce, too powerful to handle, too profound for me to understand. Therefore, I was prohibited from speaking it, even from knowing it. I asked my friend Nehemiah, I said, Nehemiah, you know the name? He says, absolutely, according to the oldest, most complete manuscripts. And then he does something. And you all, I wanted to take this first two sessions just to give you a foundation of what had happened to me. Of all of the revelations of time and Torah and Tetragrammaton, this is the one that has caused the deepest change in me. I'm standing or at that point sitting across from this place, this place in Jerusalem. And actually, I have a picture. We're about to go on a tour. And let me just show you a picture of where we were going. We were going on a tour under the city. If you notice, there are some tunnels. Here's a picture of the tunnels under the old city of Jerusalem. And if you see there, they have a replica of the old, of the temple, but just behind that, where the lights are shining, there are these huge stones, some of them as large as 600 metric tons. This is where I received the revelation of the Biblical Foundations Academy. What would it mean for people to have that sort of depth, that sort of strength, that sort of confidence, like those stones that are above ground? What if they had that information below ground to be their foundation? So this is what happens to me. I'm there in the old city. I'm asking Nehemiah this question, and then he does this radical thing. He says, according to the oldest, most complete Hebrew manuscripts, his name would be proclaimed as Yehovah. When I heard it, it caught me off guard. But this is the thing that really got me. After he proclaims the name, there's a man standing there with a prayer shawl and tzitzit. As he's standing there, he does something really, really radical, and I'm going to have to just show this to you. Here's what he does. After Nehemiah proclaims the name, this man blows the shofar. Can I again take you to the old city of Jerusalem and let you hear what I heard? Because since that day, the sound of the shofar and the sound of his name found in the oldest, most complete vocalized Hebrew manuscripts has changed my life. You all, I love blowing the shofar, so I'm going to blow it again. Why don't you close your eyes for a second? Go with me to the oldest, to that old place of Jerusalem, where I'm sitting across from this place where his name is placed forever, and I hear this man who proclaims, this Jewish man. He's not Messianic. He's not Christian. He's a Hebrew scholar. He's saying, I've studied the manuscripts. It can be written. It can be spoken as Yehovah. And after he says that, I hear this. Oh, my goodness. What a blessing it is. Here I'm in the old city of Jerusalem. I have my Torah scroll. I'm there for time, and then I get a chance to hear his name. You know, there's a scripture that I want to share with you that really sets the stage for this. I have it right here. Let me do this. I'm going to show you something else. I'm going to show you a scripture, yes, in 2 Kings chapter 21, if we can show that on the screen. 2 Kings chapter 21 says this. Yehovah said unto David and to his son Solomon, in this house and in Jerusalem, which I have chosen from all the tribes of Israel, I shall place my name forever. It does not say that he will place his name for just 1,000 years or 2,000 years. It says, I myself shall place my name forever. So there I'm sitting. He's saying the name. I'm hearing the sound, but being a good old-fashioned seminary guy, I'm saying that's not good enough. And I hope it's not good enough for you. My experience is my experience. I believe my experience is genuine, but hopefully my experience is not good enough for you. Hopefully you'll do what I did. I said, well, Nehemiah, show me the name. He says, well, it's right there in your Bible. I said, you mean the one I have here? And there I had my old seminary Bible, which is based on what's called the Leningrad manuscript. It's called the BHS, which is a printed version of the original manuscript that's written in Hebrew. He said that in this book, in my seminary Bible, I would actually see the name printed. So I looked at him and I said, Nehemiah, show me where. Well, the great Hebrew scholar, Nehemiah Gordon, could not show me off the top of his head where I could see the name printed with 4 consonants and 3 vowels. But he says to me, oh, it's there. So you know what happened to me? I went home that night. Sure, I had my experience. Sure, I had got a chance to hear the name. Sure, I had got a chance to hear the Torah, the shofar. But the bottom line is, it wasn't good enough. I went back to my apartment where I had my Torah scroll, and I had my Bible from seminary, my Hebrew Bible, and what I did is I opened it up, page by page, letter by letter, looking for 4 consonants and 3 vowels. And then at about 3 o'clock in the morning, literally, it was as if I had won the $1 million. There in my manuscript were 4 consonants and 3 vowels. What was amazing to me about it, when I saw it, I couldn't go to sleep. I'm looking in this manuscript. He says, this manuscript is based actually on a manuscript written by a scribe where there's consonants and vowels. I'm thinking, wow, I'm looking at it. And here's what really blew me away. After I find it, I said I couldn't go to sleep. The next morning, I called my new friend, Nehemiah Gordon. I said, Nehemiah, I found 4 consonants and 3 vowels. And he says to me, where? And I said, in Genesis chapter 3, verse 14. And he goes on his computer and he says, oh my goodness, you found the first place where this name is actually written. I went on to do something else. I said, well, how many times is the name written? He says, well, actually, there are about 50 different times where you actually could see this name printed that way. Now, you all, I have to back up for a second. Here I am in Jerusalem. I have a dream where there's a scroll flying over my head. In the dream, this lady's voice comes out and says, if you can tell me where the scroll ends up, you win $1 million. It opens up. Come to find out that my new friend, the Hebrew scholar, goes to Leviticus 23. I've got a voice that says I'm supposed to be there at Shavuot. And then I find this name printed 50 different times in this manuscript. Can I show you real quickly what I actually saw in the manuscript? Let's let you see this right now. Don't be overwhelmed. Here's what I found in my printed Tanakh. Yud, He, Vav, He, with 3 vowels. You'll see a little dot under the Yud, a dot over the Vav, and another little, looks like a T under the Vav. We're going to learn more about this. This is something that you're going to get a chance to understand for yourself. But what's amazing about it is that this, if I read this in my manuscript, it allows me to proclaim the name with consonants and vowels. Now, again, you all, that is my printed Bible, or I call my most prized possession. But let me tell you what I've done. I actually said, even that is not good enough. I want a chance to see the handwriting of the scribe. One of the things I did in the book is Hallowed Name Revealed Again, is I actually took the printed time where I saw his name and placed it in the book. Chapter 1, if you go to hishallowedname.com and you look under the home page, there's actually a chapter that lets you see the printing of the scribe with your own 2 eyes. But hey, come on. I am in Midland, Texas, where there's treasure. I'm at GLC Studios. Why should I just show you what you could see online or on TV? I've done something even better. After I learned about this, I said to myself, I've got to have that manuscript for myself. Let me tell you what's powerful. You can actually go now to Amazon and order the Leningrad manuscript. This manuscript is the oldest complete vocalized Hebrew manuscript in the world. We did not have access to it. I would have never had access to it until after 1991, where Gorbachev let the wall down and let people in, where there was the greatest amount of manuscripts that we had access to. What I've done is actually brought the manuscripts into the studio. Can I show you what this manuscript looks like? There are actually 2 of them. The first one is here. This is called the Leningrad manuscript. 50 different times in this manuscript, we find the consonants Yud, He, Vav, He, with the vowels that allow us to proclaim the name. Wonderful situation, but the other manuscript is even a little more exciting. This is actually a copy of the Aleppo manuscript. This manuscript is about 100 years older and what they call even more accurate. If I open up this manuscript, I also find times where the scribe is actually writing Yud, He, Vav, He. And we're going to learn through this series that there's been a ban on the name and there's been tradition and there's been rules and regulations on why they're not supposed to write it, why we're not supposed to read it. But for whatever reason, in both of these witnesses, we find the name written with consonants and vowels. Something about this manuscript. I have a friend, Reggie White, the late Reggie White. He's actually died. My friend Reggie White, about a few years ago, he wanted to have somewhat of an experience like I had in the old city of Jerusalem. He said, is there anybody over there I can meet that can help me have sort of the same kind of encounter? I said, oh, I know a man named Nehemiah Gordon. I called Nehemiah. I said, Nehemiah, Reggie White would like to come over and visit you in Jerusalem. And Nehemiah says, who's Reggie White? Now, as I'm speaking to you, you probably know who the Minister of Defense was, Reggie White. Great football player, won the Super Bowl, loved to play the game, but more than that, he loved God. Well, when he heard about the experience, he went over to the old city of Jerusalem and he said, hey, listen, I would like to see the Aleppo Codex. Nehemiah said, oh, no, Reggie, I can take you over to the museum where you can see a copy of the Aleppo Codex. Reggie goes over and he sees it. He says, well, where's the original? I said, well, the original is actually in a vault, and nobody gets a chance to see that. Not even the prime minister of Israel has ever seen that. But Nehemiah, being a good tour guide, decided to call the museum and say, hey, listen, I have a Reggie White here who would like to see the original. And the man says, of course not. He can't see the original. Not even the prime minister has seen the original. Come to find out that there happens to be a great donor who was a Green Bay Packer fan. He talks to the person who's in charge and he says, hey, there was a Reggie White here. And he says, Reggie White, you mean from the Green Bay Packers? Yeah. He wants to see the original. He says, hey, you let Reggie White in there. I only ask one thing, that he give me an autograph. Reggie White goes into the vault with my friend Nehemiah and sees the original Aleppo Codex. There's a book called The Crown of Aleppo that I really would suggest that you get that talks about the history of this particular manuscript. Here's why it's at GLC. Reggie goes in and he says, I'd like a copy of the original. They said, oh, Mr. White, there were only about 600 of these made in the world. We don't have any more. About a few hours later, he gets a phone call and he says, oh, there are about 100 more that we have in a basement. My friend Reggie goes and buys 4 copies of this, gives one to Nehemiah, gives one to my friend Kadri Ismail, and gives one to himself. But then he comes home and he says, Keith, I have a gift for you. He gives me a copy of the Aleppo Codex, the crown jewel of all Hebrew manuscripts. So can you understand why I'm just a little excited to share with you this? Now, I'm just giving you the outside right now. As we progress through the series, I'm going to open these manuscripts and let you see for yourself the name. But for me, I have 2 witnesses. I consider 2 witnesses, a witness of heaven and earth, a valid testimony of his name, which is being proclaimed again. What's interesting to me is as I have been doing my study, as I have had my pump jack that's over that particular spot, and as I learn more and more and more, I come to find out that our creator of the universe is proclaiming his name in ways that are really quite creative. I actually have another story I'd like to share with you before we get into some of the depth. I'm going to take you over to the desk where we can sit down and crack open some of the books, etc. There is a story about 1979. There was an archaeologist named Gabriel Barclay. He actually was doing a dig outside the old city of Jerusalem, and he could not afford other adult archaeologists, so he brought some young people, 12 and 13 years old, some sort of like a field trip, etc. He brings these young people and he has them do some digging. One of the young men was named Nathan, or Nathan in English. Nathan was what he called a bit of an irritant to him. He would pull on him and he'd ask questions and he'd push him. And finally, the archaeologist Gabriel said, hey, listen, Nathan, go over there to the side and you spend some time cleaning out a repository. And I want it so clean that you'd be able to eat off it away from the group. So Nathan is over there and he's hitting and he's digging and he's cleaning and he's hitting and he's digging and he's a bit bored, but he's pushing and he's pulling. Finally, the floor opens up. He brings some pottery to the archaeologist, who, by the way, was not interested in young Nathan. He was bothering too much, pulling on him too much. It says that Gabriel started pulling on him and saying, where did you get these? Come to find out that the place where young Nathan had been digging and pulling and pushing, just beneath that place, there were 2 silver scrolls that were found. Amulets, actually, kind of like good luck charms. As they opened up these amulets, they found these 2 silver scrolls. And I have to give credit to my friend Nehemiah Gordon, who has given us what's just so much information on this. Nehemiah says it like this. On these particular silver scrolls, we find the oldest example of God's name written that we've ever found. On these amulets, there would be in what's called Paleo-Hebrew, the 4 letters Yud, He, Vav, He. Better than that, these 4 letters were written in Paleo-Hebrew on a verse coming from Numbers chapter 6. You probably know it. In Numbers chapter 6, it is what's called the priestly prayer. You know, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord cause his face to shine upon you. But when they found these particular silver scrolls and decided to open them, and by the way, it took them 3 years to figure out how they could open the scrolls so that they could get the revelation of his name. 3 years. When they finally opened it, this is what they found. They found the name of the creator of the universe in Paleo-Hebrew. Now, I'm going to show you real quick a picture of what Paleo-Hebrew looks like. Here it is. If you take a look right on the top, it says, and you see Yud He Vav He in Paleo Hebrew. Now we're going to stay on this slide for just a little bit because it's very, very important. We see Yud He Vav He in Paleo Hebrew. This would have been about 500, 600 BC, around the time of Jeremiah. That is the way that the name would have been written without vowels. Yud He Vav He, and if we were to translate it, it would say Yud He Vav He, Yehovah bless you and keep you. Now the next one you see is Yud He Vav He in what's called the Assyrian square script. That's like modern Hebrew, what we'd have today. And of course, the third example is what we have in the English Bible, the Lord. So the reason I'm showing you all three is I'm just giving you a progression to let you see what it would mean to see his name written in Paleo Hebrew, in the Assyrian script, and what we have now done in English. Now, what I find really, really interesting is this. When we get to our English Bible, and we're going to stay here for a second, of course, we don't have Paleo Hebrew. We also don't have the Assyrian script in our English Bible. We have English. And what English has done, and rather than having his name being proclaimed in Paleo, rather having his name being proclaimed in the Assyrian script with vowels or without, we simply give a description. Literally, we say, the Lord. Now, what's even more interesting, if you stay right here, is that the Lord is capitalized. L-O-R-D. Is that good enough for you? It certainly was not good enough for me. I did not want to spend my time only dealing with a title. I wanted an opportunity to see his name just the way it was written. What I love about the Leningrad manuscript, what I love about the Aleppo Codex is these two witnesses allow us to see the scribe who clearly knew the name. We're going to find out later that even though that scribe was under the ban of not writing the name, of not proclaiming the name, for what reason, something causes the scribe to get caught up where he's sitting and he's writing. And as he's writing the name, he says, Vayomer Elohim. And then all of a sudden he puts Yud He Vav He with 4 consonants and 3 vowels. Now, you're going to hear all sorts of arguments. If you leave from this time and after this taping is done, you can go online and hear people say, oh, of course, what they did is they took the vowels of Adonai and placed them into the consonants of Yud He Vav He. Can I give you a little secret? There is not one time in either one of these Hebrew manuscripts where we find the vowels of Adonai placed into the consonants Yud He Vav He. I think it's amazing. The creator of the universe is now bringing information to us that we did not have access to before. I've been to seminary. I've spent 3 years learning Greek and Hebrew and theology and history. And I went through, and let me just tell you, I don't mind telling you, I even graduated cum laude. Doesn't matter. They never gave me access to this information. I can guarantee you right now, what we're about to learn over these next sessions, as we dig deeper into the revelation of his name, you're going to get a chance to see it for yourself and own it for yourself. Why I'm so thankful to Tommy and Al for allowing me to come to GLC and do this is this isn't something that's been done usually. Usually what you'll hear is people will give you their experience. They'll tell you why you shouldn't do it. There's all sorts of rules and regulations, and I think this and I think that. Hey, forget about what anybody thinks. Even my revelation, is wonderful and as powerful as it is to me, it should not be good enough to you. You don't want to see a printing. You actually want to see what the scribe wrote. And that is exactly what we're showing you here. A chance to go under the wall, down deep. This is what the Biblical Foundations Academy is about. We want to go to the depth. We want to give people a foundation. We want to give people information. We want to give people inspiration. And I'm going to tell you something that's happening right now that is truly, truly exciting me. We are getting invitations from places that are really quite rare. People that are saying, teach us the name. I just spent some time with my son Kyle in a federal prison. They brought us to the federal prison because one of the prisoners at the federal prison read the book, His Hallowed Name Revealed Again. He said, can you come and share this revelation with the other prisoners? Now, I'm thinking, I don't know what kind of prison it is. I'm going in, and I'm going in with my son Kyle, and there's all sorts of things that happen. I don't want to bore you with that, but the bottom line is, in the end, we actually got into the prison. As we're in the prison, there had to be over 100 men there. And I'm thinking to myself, I would love to actually have made the title of my message, breaking in. Who broke in? Yehovah himself. He broke in because when I walked into the prison, right on the table, there were two books. The book that I wrote with my friend Nehemiah Gordon, A Prayer to Our Father, Hebrew Origins of the Lord's Prayer, and the other one, His Hallowed Name Revealed Again, right there in the prison. As I saw it, I thought to myself, the Creator of the universe is not limited where He wants to introduce himself. We were in federal prison. We have been in people all over the world, third world countries, people saying, send us information on the name. We now have that information. It is now time for us to give the inspiration. His name is being revealed again. We have the witnesses. You can see it for yourself. This isn't something that we're making up. This is not Keith's opinion. It is not Nehemiah's opinion. We can actually open up the manuscripts and see it for ourselves. What I love is there's one other little verse I'd like to share with you. It's the actual verse that opens up the beginning of the priestly prayer, the priestly benediction. Let's take a look at it real quick. Here's what it says in English. So shall they invoke my name on the sons of Israel. And then you see some Hebrew that says, Va'ani avarechem. What it really says there is this. So shall they invoke my name on the sons of Israel, and I, indeed, I shall bless y'all. Hey, let me tell you something about this prayer. What it says is this. The Creator of the universe said this. Hey, priest, do me a favor. Stand before the people and say to them this. And then it goes through the prayer. Lovely, lovely prayer. You can hear it anywhere. It's so sad that there are so many people that rather than saying the name, they will say, and Adonai bless you. Or in English, they'll say, and the Lord bless you. But it says, thus shall you say to them. And when you say it to them, and you say my name, and you invoke my name, I myself will come and bless them. You want to be blessed? Learn His name. His name is available to us today, and we get a chance to encounter it as it originally was spoken. Anochi, Yehovah, Eloheka. I am Yehovah, your Elohim. I thank you so much and hope you'll continue to walk with us as we go through the revelation of His hallowed name revealed again.
Please remember, Biblical Foundations Academy International depends on tax-deductible donations from viewers like you.